No, I love the way you explained that. And I wanted to also mention too, I think hyper specialization is actually sort of rare for polymaths because we get to that 80 percentile, 90 percentile and generally stop. And there's to be a polymath, like 3 or more areas of expertise. So if you're a specialist in 3 areas, you've only had so much time. Granted, how long you live and how much you've spent of that learning is also another factor involved. I think Da Vinci lived to be such a like old age, and he stayed in impeccable shape too, which I think helped contribute his long life. You mentioned him as like the ultimate polymath. I wanted to mention, to indulge your curiosity a little bit, he's the ultimate polymath of the Italian Renaissance, but there's Ibn Sina of the Arabic Renaissance, the Golden Age of Islam. That's also another great example.
Yeah, and thank you. I haven't done my research on him, but um
I need to go deeper too. I just wanted to mention him to you because like that's just it came to mind. It's like there's multiple different Renaissance. Like I think there was even like a Chinese one too back in the day,
yeah.
which is
Okay.
so cool. People don't know about the other ones. So
There's
that's
so
like
much. Yeah,
yeah.
and I know some people wrote about it, and I had a train of thought about the 80%
Mm-hmm.
and then pivoting.
Take your time. I got it out.
Hmm. Okay, no, we could keep talking, and then again back to that different. Oh,
So,
that's it. Um, the difference I often heard the argument is that the polymaths are more accomplished,
mm,
and I really struggled. I said, like, what does that measure, right? In the sense of, oh, well, they have a PhD, multiple PhDs. Okay, that's one form of accomplishment. And I remember kind of trying to identify and go, but if I did a major multi-million-dollar project in this area and brought that kind of huge revenue, whatever, is that a form of accomplishment in that topic?
mm-hmm.
I would say yes, but I think that's where people struggle. And then and some people say like, why do you have to differentiate? And I totally get that, but there's this like, what is that 80%? What is that measure of success or enough of an impact in that area?
I think even like writing a book on the topic is still one of those things, or multiple books, for example, like David Epstein, for example, in the topic of polymath, he's written a couple books now, and or a few books, and same with like there's a researcher, Dr. Angela Myers, who I've talked to many times
Hmm.
on this show, and she's really great, but she's also written multiple books, but what's interesting about the researchers is that they come from that field of academia, and so when they measure polymathy, they come from that point of view, and I've talked to them about this too, and they've actually gone out of their way to get past that kind of academic bias. Like, how do you
Yeah.
measure polymathy outside of academia? So I really respect Michael Rocky and Dr. Myers too, talking about this. But I think that as someone who doesn't have a background of academia, my point of view is the opposite end, where I'm like completely
Yeah.
solo self-education. You mentioned something earlier, and I wanted to talk to you about it because I might have talked to you about it on your show, but I'm not sure if I did. I created what I call the multidisciplinary spectrum, which allows people to kind of measure where they're at based on how many areas of expertise and how deep they are in that. Granted, how do you measure how deep you are in a specialty? That's more subjective, but it starts off with like the multi-potentialite, the potential to do many different things. Jack of all trades, you might be doing a dozen or more areas, but you're at a novice or a depth level. Then generalist, which are more maybe 3 to 5, 7 areas that more journeyman, middle level. Then you get to polymath, 3 or more areas of actual specialist expertise. There's a couple other paths too, but like that's the main path there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Any thoughts on that? Because you were mentioning some stuff like that earlier between the generalist and polymath, which I think definitely aligned with that middle part there.
Yeah, I think just like that breaks my brain a little bit in the sense that I'm like, all right, well, I think I could do 3 areas of like more uber specialty, but again, what's the measure, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not a PhD. Is it a sense of accomplishment? Is it number of years in the domain? Is it number of books? Is it number of project? Like how do you measure that? And then I was like, okay, then 3 to 7 other kind of interest areas that I've produce a form of results. So yeah, I generally agree, and I totally see where you are. I think it's just I think
Measuring is the issue, yeah.
yeah.
Why don't, for the sake of you and the audience, since I was explaining it, why don't I just share my screen real quick
Great.
so you can kind of see the whole scale here.
Okay.
I don't know why this doesn't say spec.
Ooh, adisciplinary T-shaped. I don't know if you follow the conversation. There was a few years ago where a lot, like I feel like at least in my world on LinkedIn, like it was all booming, and there's like the T shape, the W shape, the M shape, the O shape. Like
I
everybody was
really like all those different terms, and I wanted to try to like incorporate. If you've really aligned with multi-potentialite, or maybe adisciplinary or T-shaped, where are you on the spectrum then? And I think
right.
that's kind of a fun way of going about it.
So how have you, so you've shared this with people?
I made a whole mini series about it on my channel, and I shared it on my website too. But I think that I need to update it, especially since I don't have numbers. And I think that would help a lot of people really understand where this is coming from. Like, I came up with proto polymath because I think that for me, people have called me a polymath, and I do have 3 areas of expertise. But you mentioned kind of earlier the ego aspect to it too, and so I thought proto polymath. I'm on the journey to polymathy. That's what
Yeah,
really
it feels more
matters.
comfortable.
Feels more comfortable, and that way people want. It's more about like actually the other person's comfort. Because I don't want them thinking I'm egotistical by saying I'm a polymath. If that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah,
And so,
exactly.
yeah, and then generalist is nice too. I do like generalists more than some other terms. But even expert generalist or leverage generalist, as Tim Ferriss has talked about too.
Right. Yeah. And I think, it's really interesting that I find, the specialists go on of like really defining terms and buckets and making sure there's
Yeah,
buckets, right?